But you got to allow those conversations to happen because it does a couple of things. It allows for some clarification, and it allows for you to resolve that particular scenario in the moment, or not necessarily in the moment, but afterward, which may help with the way it feels, because compounded over time, just it's like fuel to that feeling. So if there are several things that haven't been resolved, each of those things may feel a particular way, whether it's unwanted, or whether it's taken for granted, or whatever it is. That compounded, those actions compound that feeling. And so now, even if you resolve one thing, even if we resolve this headset scenario and you explain yourself, you both explain, hey, this is what I was trying to do. This is not what I was trying to do. Getting clarification on that one instance will not take away the overall feeling, because that feeling is compounded based on other stuff that hasn't been resolved. Does that make sense? So you guys have to start talking about those things. Like when she brings that stuff up, even if you're past it, I'm working with a couple right now. They're kind of in the same boat. The guy's like, man, I gave up the anger about this a long time ago, but his wife is still there. So you gotta acknowledge that and work on how do you get her back to a space where she feels healed and whole. And part of that is allowing those conversations to happen, even though you may feel like you're already past that point. That's the give and take in communication, right? And you may not have to say anything at all, except for some active listening statements. I'll give you an example. It comes to you and she's like, I felt like we never really resolved XYZ thing that happened back in January. I'm just throwing something out as an example. So you say to her, okay, I'm listening. Talk to me. Tell me how you felt. Be engaged. Be sincere about wanting to be engaged. Allow her to say everything she has to say. It gives you an opportunity to clarify. It also gives you an opportunity to assist in her healing by saying something like this. You know what? It could be whatever it is. And I'm not telling you to make it up. So be sincere, whatever it is. So if it is this, then say this, but that's not what I was trying to do. I reacted based on, same thing you just told me. I reacted based on, what was happening. I should not have come at you that way. That's not what I meant. In the moment, you can do that and apologize for what happened in the moment. And reassurance. So with an apology should always come some level of reassurance. That's not how I wanted to make you feel. I'm sorry that's how I made you feel. And I will do my best to not put you in that position in the future. It doesn't have to be a whole big penance that you got to go through forever, right? Each person wants to feel acknowledged in whatever they're doing. The person who is seeking forgiveness wants to feel acknowledged in the whole process. The person that's granting forgiveness wants to feel acknowledged in the process, right? Hence, why you can count the number of times that she hasn't said you're sorry, that she's sorry, because everybody on both sides of that process is looking for a certain level of acknowledgement. But you got to be cognizant of the space that it puts her in, especially for you and your personality, because for you can bounce back. We talked about this last week. You can get over those things a lot quicker, but you still have to engage in the process because you got a partner who needs that process in order to feel like she's not being taken advantage of, to feel like she is being heard, and to feel like a situation is resolved to the point of her being able to move on and not throw that up on the hill of the other things, right? We're trying to knock that hill down. Does that make sense? And that's why these conversations are important. Let me just say it. I'll just say it like that. because these are the things that come out in those conversations, right? And it allows you to then craft strategy on how you work moving forward. So that's the beauty of having these conversations. And they're going to be tough, right? Because there's emotions involved. Having that, allowing her to share that emotion is part of the resolution process. Often, right, what we do as guys is we shy away from that resolution process because there's a bad connotation that's been put on that process. And resolution sometimes in our minds means that you have to walk away from that conversation with a game plan. And that's not always the case. Yes, that's helpful, but that's not always the case. Sometimes resolution just looks like acknowledgement and reassurance. Sometimes that's the game plan. Sometimes reassurance is the game plan. So for me to say something to my wife like, listen, I'm sorry about that. I realize from what you're telling me how it made you feel and what the space that it puts you in. Like I'll give you a real world example. Something happened with us. We're having a conversation and I was frustrated about something, but I wasn't frustrated at her. I was frustrated about something else that was going on. And I was talking to her about it. And she made a suggestion. And out of my frustration, feeling like that suggestion wouldn't work, I lit into her. But I wasn't lighting into her. I was just expressing my frustration that scenario has been tried already. It's not going to work. That is not how she took it. She actually got scared. And so now she's like, okay, I'm in this fight or flight mode. And just to give you some context, that stems back from something in her past. She was in a bad situation in her past. And there's certain things, certain phrases, certain tones, certain hand gestures that just send her into that place of, okay, I'm not safe right now. And I'm not understanding what's going on because I'm like, I'm not fussing at you. But because I raised my voice and I was just like flying off the handle in my frustration, that's what came across. And so I had to come back to the table for a resolution for something that I honestly didn't feel like I did, but I understood what she was saying. She was like, when you said this, and this, and you start swinging your arms around and, and all of this kind of stuff, I felt unsafe. And I don't want you to put me in a position where I feel unsafe. And so now my apology is, okay, I hear you. I understand. And, I was same thing with the reaction thing. I'm like, I understand what was going on. I was reacting to the situation and I realized that what I did put you in that place. I'm going to do my best not to put you in that place ever again. Apology and acknowledgement and reassurance. No game plan. I'm not going to promise her something that's way out the box, because what she wants is the acknowledgement and the reassurance that I'm going to be cognizant of that in the future. And so that's why you guys got to have these conversations, because you don't want it to compound. You want for both of you, because it's not a one-way street, right? I know I'm kind of talking about feelings, a little bit more, but it's a two-way street. Like you both have to be cognizant of that, right? The acknowledgement and reassurance that has to come out in that conversation so that you both walk away from that conversation with a clean slate. Because if you don't have these conversations, then this is what happens. It compounds. And then another scenario happens. And then the level of the gap between how safe she feels and how respected you feel gets wider and wider.